Hello and welcome to the Calling the Real You podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Horton, and I call the real you out each and every week with special guests like the one we have today. Today we are talking with Alexi Panos, and we'll be discussing making personal development mainstream and exactly what that means and what it takes. Alexi is a leader in the emergent wisdom movement. She is on a mission to make personal development mainstream through her books, her YouTube channel, workshops, international speaking, and working with her nonprofit, Epic, which is in Africa. She's one of Origin Magazine's top 100 creatives changing the world and is a featured expert in the films The Abundance Factor and Rise Up. She's authored the books 50 Ways to Yay and Now or Never, both by Simon & Schuster. She and her husband, also referred to as Partner in Shine, have a new book coming out in December, which is called Now or Never. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Alexi. Alexi, welcome to the Calling the Real You podcast.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Oh, I'm absolutely thrilled. I first saw you and became aware of you and your work through the Abundance Factor movie. And I was so taken by you, your energy, your level of confidence, the authority with which you spoke on your subject matter, that I wanted to meet you. And be careful what you ask for, right? We do our visualizations, we do our meditations, our visual boards, and the whole 9 yards. And here we are today. So it's an absolute honor to be introducing you to the Calling the Real You audience.
Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to be in the realm and in the space of amazing women, especially that get what we're all up to and get why we're up to it right now. So I really appreciate you and honor the work that you're doing as well. I think it's super important.
Thank you, Alexi. You know, I have a girl crush on you. And I want everyone else to have a crush on you and the work that you're doing. So please take a few moments just to tell us where your passion comes from. What is your why behind making personal development mainstream?
Yeah, well, as a kid, I was always kind of that curious kid that was searching for the truth. And what society was giving me at the time never really resonated. I had friends who were a part of all different types of religions growing up. History always fascinated me. And I always took a deep dive into those worlds and tried to find the connecting pieces. And just through my own studying throughout the years and, really diving deep into the work and trying different modalities, I get that it's so overwhelming and can be so confusing to people if they don't know where to start. And for me, what I recognize is that there's a thread, there's this universal thread that ties all these ancient wisdoms together, and the thread is love. And, as airy-fairy as that may sound, it's not love in the sense of romantic love, it's love in the sense of a unified spirit. It's why we're here, it's what we are. And essentially, I believe it's what we're up to. And for me, making personal development mainstream is about giving people the keys and the access to kind of skip over and bypass decades of study that I've been in since I was literally 8 years old. I've been into this stuff since I was young, and really just offer them some really amazing nuggets of wisdom kind of on a silver platter, because I don't want to make it so hard for people to get this wisdom. I don't want to make it such an arduous process to kind of weave and sift through, what's relevant for the modern day person and what's not. I want to just give it to them in a way that's digestible, where they can hear it, where it resonates, and most importantly, where they feel empowered to take it on and make changes in themselves and ultimately the world.
Mm. You're simplifying it. You're
Yeah.
simplifying the knowledge, the practices, the modalities. Do you practice or offer up and encourage one modality, or there's multiple things and things that people can subscribe to, practice, etc.? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't believe in one way. I think, there's the universal one way where it's kind of all the same thing, but there's the many different sections of that. And I do not believe that one way fits all. From my own personal experience, I don't believe that that works for me. And what I've found is, human beings are so multifaceted, and there's so many things that make us who we are, our environment, where we live, where we grew up, who grew up around us. And for me to say that one way works for everyone is really just doing a total disservice to people, because I find that blending all of these different modalities is what makes something mainstream. When you can hit people from different angles and they don't necessarily know why it's resonating, but they're like, something about that message, even if I'm Christian or Muslim or atheist or agnostic, something about that message landed. And I don't quite know what it is. I don't quite know if she's Christian or this or that, but something about it really resonated with me. And that's the feedback I get all the time from people all over the world. I've spoke in Muslim countries, I've spoken in Christian countries, I've spoken in Buddhist countries. So, I get people from all different walks of life. And then I can also go to a business conference and speak to them about love. So, I'm definitely not singling any one modality as the way, because I do believe that there's so many universal truths, and we get to find that thread and share that thread with everyone.
You mentioned businesses and talking to them about love. That's one of my passions, is working with employees in companies, CEOs, CMOs, C-suite, because those are the leaders of a company. And we all know that the energy, the thought process, the intention of the leader of a company is what rolls down and is felt and exhibited throughout the entire employee or the engagement of the staff, etc. And for you to be able to bridge that gap going into a business environment and talking about love, what does that look like? Like, are they receptive? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think there's always a bit of resistance at first, because the question is always, how does this affect my bottom line? Mm-hmm. Right? How does this affect my bottom line? How does the love affect my bottom line? And from an outsider's perspective looking in, it's not so obvious of an answer. So my job and what I get to do is I get to come in and really show them how everything in business is about connection. Everything in business is about how can I serve with my product, my message, my mission. And if our mission, product, or service is missing an element of love and passion, it's just not going to resonate as much. So when we can really connect deeply to our why in everything that we do, and our why is connected to our love, right? It's connected to our heart. And when we deeply connect to that why and bring that why to our product, our mission, our service, our people feel that, and it makes a difference. It's kind of why, if you look at this whole resurgence of the small business, people are loving these little boutique businesses. They're avoiding the big box stores now, and they want that experience that feels more human. And the reason why they want that is because we swung the pendulum so far in the direction of disconnection and kind of, these superstores where you've got a million different products to choose from, all at the cheapest price, all manufactured overseas. People want more of a high touch experience. And when you can provide that, you're providing something really special that stands out. And that is love.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you are on the show, and I have such an admiration and respect for you, and Preston, your husband, for that matter. I didn't know that you were, when we first connected, I didn't know that you were engaged and getting married, but since then I've become a follower and fan, and just kind of watching your life unfold and the work that you're doing, which I commend you for and thank you for, because we absolutely need you and Preston and people that just get it and do the work that you're doing. Let's talk about this pendulum of disconnection a little bit, because everything went internet, right? Everything went internet marketing for a few years, and that's where people were no longer connecting face to face. There weren't those business face to face meetings, etc. You see the difference coming back. You see that people are craving the opposite. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think the internet's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. If you need any proof of that, just have the internet be slow one day and people freak out.
Right. Yeah.
My whole life's falling apart. So it's definitely not going anywhere. But what is happening is people are really starting to feel disconnected from, again, that high touch experience. Going out for coffee and meeting with a friend and catching up on life. versus just scrolling through your social media feed and getting an update. And we're seeing this kind of in the thought leader space where live events are really starting to boom in a way that, they were always really popular, but now there's this resurgence where people want to get offline. And yes, I may be connected to, let's say, 5,000 people in a particular space, but if I don't meet them face to face, I don't really know them. There's no real history. There's nothing really there for us. And people are really craving this experience of, okay, I met you, we shared a moment together, we shared a laugh, we shared a story. And now that we have that, now we can go online. Now we can go online and keep in touch and stay up to date with each other's lives. And I think it's because people have literally felt so disconnected from life while they've been so connected through the internet to so much life. And they're getting that they really need to make priority and prioritize this whole human to human contact.
Yeah. You often talk about, or I've heard you say a couple of times now, who do I need to become to make it happen?
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, so many people have such big dreams and such big visions for their life, and it's wonderful. I think it's great. I think we're here to dream. We're here to have these massive visions, and we're here to call it in. However, a lot of people kind of sit back and, they'll create the vision board, they'll write the goals out, and then they'll sit back and maybe even take some of the actions necessary. But even if they get it, even if they get their hands on that dream for a second, they can't hold it. They can't hold it. They can't contain the bigness of that dream because they haven't done the work on themselves to be able to hold it. So who do I need to become in order to make it happen is really a call to our inner greatness to step up and say, okay, I get that I'm going to have to face off with my darkness. Okay, I get that I'm going to have to face off with my insecurities, my fears, my doubts, my struggles. I get that I'm going to have to get real about how I show up with people and really fine-tuning the instrument that we are so that we raise our frequency enough to really attract and hold the life we say we want. And that's really the big thing, because it's kind of like that lottery syndrome. A lot of people, they win the lottery and they go from, 60, 80, $100,000 a year to $52 million overnight. And what happens? Within a year, they lose most of their money. And a lot of people don't understand this. I don't understand, how could somebody lose that much money in a year to 3 years time? Well, it's because they didn't have the body to hold that. They weren't the space for $52 million. They didn't do the work on themselves to be able to keep and multiply that money. And a lot of people in this whole law of attraction space, we're talking about how to attract the thing, but we're not talking really about how to keep it. And how to keep it is not just about doing all the right things and setting the goals and having the vision, but it's about working on the self that you are so that you are the container that can hold the content of your life.
All right. So I understand what you're saying, and I couldn't agree with you more. I get that. I've done a lot of work on myself. I have an awesome partner in Shine as well who does work on himself every day. To hear the words work on ourself or work on yourself, people can logically understand the definition of each of those words, but what does it mean to you? Is it reading books? Is it meditating? What's a process that you can introduce to folks today?
Yeah, I think there's so many things we can do. I think one of the biggest things we can do, all of us, is take some time in nature. Nature has been one of my greatest teachers. It's been one of the things that's humbled me the most over the years. And when I say time in nature, I don't mean active time in nature. Most of us who spend time in nature, we're hiking, we're running, we're listening to our headphones while we're walking on the beach, or we're hanging out with people. But really give yourself time to be in stillness in your mind, stillness in your body, and just be with nature. And if that means just watching the waves or sitting underneath a tree and looking up at the clouds, really giving yourself that time and permission to be still. And what happens in that space is we've got room for the inner guidance, that inner GPS to come through and start offering some support. And, we often forget in this busy world that we've got our own inner guidance system. We've got this thing that we can rely upon, but so many of us have been so disconnected from it for so long that we don't know how to access it. And for me and a lot of my clients, nature has been the number one way to access it. And a lot of people have an aversion to meditation. A lot of people think it's a waste of time. A lot of people think it's woo woo and spiritual. And here's the thing, meditation doesn't always have to look like, legs in a lotus pose, incense burning with your, temple behind you. It doesn't have to look like that. And I think a lot of have that in their brains. For me, having this stillness and these moments in nature, that's meditation. It's allowing your mind to stop doing, allowing your body to stop doing so that you can practice what it takes to be. And that's really like the best work you can do on yourself is that. And then, of course, there's the books, there's seminars and workshops. I think, I love reading. I'm the biggest book nerd. My apartment is filled with books. They're great. However, books, there's a trap with books because a lot of people read books and they're like, yeah, I just absorbed all this great information, but they don't put it into practice. It becomes, it's just kind of information and not wisdom. And it becomes wisdom when we really start to embody it and put it into practice. So if you're a diligent student with your books, you've probably got that down. But, if you're like a lot of people, it's hard to put it into practice if you don't have support or accountability. So get yourself in a workshop, get yourself experiencing the work, get yourself a coach, get yourself somebody who's going to be a mirror for you so that you can actually practice and they can show you where your blind spots are.
Are you familiar with Debbie Ford and the shadow effect?
Yes, I love Debbie Ford.
I do too. I do too. She was remarkable and vulnerable and allowed us and introduced the shadow effect or the shadow work. And she talks a lot about the mirror, allowing the world be your mirror.
Yes.
And that's what you're referring to. That was very similar to what you said. And forgiveness is a really big key component. There's a lot of talk about forgiveness. It's quite trendy right now. It is, the mainstream is discussing it. Is forgiveness necessary when it comes to personal development being mainstream, or even just remove mainstream? Is it necessary, and why?
Yeah, I absolutely believe so. And here's why. I'll tell a story to illustrate this point because this story, when I was told it, really resonated with me. So there's two men out for a hike. One of them, or both of them, get bit by a snake. Okay. One of them takes out his knife, chases after the snake, and the other man takes out his knife and carves out the poison in his leg. Now, the man who carved out the poison in his leg, who went to work on himself, is the man who lived. The man who chased the snake for justice, for retribution, the poison seeped through his system and he died. So this story illustrates how most of us are living. Most of us, we get bit by the snake, something happens to us, mostly involving another person. And what happens? We go after the snake, we're angry, we're resentful, we want justice, and all that poison is still in our system. That poison is seeping through our body and our bones, and we don't realize why we're depressed, why we're bitter, why we feel like life is driving us down. We don't understand how all of this is correlated to the fact that there's a poison in our system that we haven't addressed. Now, the person who goes through a forgiveness process, who really is with the work and with the shadow, the person that can be with that and go straight to the poison and say, what did this bring up within me? How do I want to be with other people? How can I have compassion for this person? That person went straight to the source of the problem and dealt with it and removed it from their life. So those are the people that we see in life who are lighter, who feel free, who feel happy and joyful because they're not holding on to pain. And so many people think that holding on to the pain is going to somehow make whatever was wrong right. I feel like, well, I have to be mad at this person because that's the only way that I'll feel justified and feel like, I've got some sort of retribution in this thing. But holding on to the pain is the absolute worst thing you can do for yourself. And I think, quite honestly, that lack of forgiveness is so tied to disease and cancer and stress and problems of the heart. I do not think physical ailments are disconnected from it. I just don't.
I, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that either. I feel it's the manifestation of people's worries, anxiety, and the fear and the lack of forgiveness. Everything. It is an absolute manifestation, in my humble opinion.
Yep.
You are one of the things that I admire about your work is that you really do appear, anyways, right? Because I don't live with you, right? So, but you you do walk your talk. You do. There's so many people in this space, in the personal development space, that I've learned over the years that really are one way on stage, one way in public, and then as soon as they are behind closed doors, you would be the general public would be quite shocked as to the conversations that are had and the labeling and I don't want to stay in this space, but I want to give you credit because you and Preston both seem to be absolutely living your beliefs and practicing them on a daily basis. Do you come up against that? Do you come up against and not in a bad way, but do you see that also, that there's this duality taking place and that there's almost a resurgence for real authenticity, real people actually walking their talk?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought this up. And when you and I first connected, we had quite a chat on this. There are so many people in the industry who are incredible, who are aligned, and who I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. I have two people in my living room right now who are close friends of mine who embody that for me. And I'm blown away all the time at how many incredible humans I meet in this field who are truly in it for the passion, for the work, for the service. They don't care about the fame. They don't care about how many views or likes or followers. They don't care about how much money. They care about making a dent in the planet and in humanity and waking humanity up. And those are my people. Those are our people. I know that's how you believe too. These are our people. And the good news is I find there's so many of those types of people. It's like this love army that is just, like ready. They're ready, they're willing, they're able, they're committed beyond belief. And I feel them rising. I feel that power becoming more palpable in the mainstream, which makes me really excited. Now, that being said, there are still these kind of, and I think there's always going to be this, right? It's like the get rich quick, get famous quick now in our society with, 15 minutes of social media fame. There are people that are looking at this industry and the thought leader space and saying, well, if I read a few books and regurgitate some information and do it in a really flashy, cool, marketable way, I could make something of my life. And while they might be really good, it's so funny because my friends who are staying with us, we got into this conversation last night about a particular human in this space who's doing the best he can from where he can, but it's getting really obvious to us that it's not going to last very long because the intentions aren't in the right place. And while he is effective and he is changing people's lives and he's doing magnificent work, the intention is just a little off. And again, this goes back to this whole container thing. You may be able to attract it. You may be able to make a lot of money and get really famous off of it. But can you hold it? Can you hold it? Because there's the short game and the long game. And almost anyone can play the short game. If you've got the right tactics, if you've got the right, work ethic and drive, you can pretty much win the short game. But can you take it to the long haul? Can you live a legacy? And that's much harder in this space. And the beautiful thing is, I say this quite a bit in my work, time weeds out the imposters. Time weeds out the imposters. And, I trust that always prevails, always. So I tend to not stress myself out too much about it unless I feel that someone's massively out of integrity, then I'm totally stressed out about it. But,
and rightfully so.
Yeah, and rightfully so. But I do feel like time will show us who's really in it for the right reasons, and everybody is digging either their own grave or
Yeah.
paving their own path, right? So the choice is up to them. And I do see it quite a bit, and it's frustrating, but it's also beautiful to be able to see the truth behind what's happening. And I just think more people are going to wake up to it. More people are going to start going, wait a second, this kind of feels all about you and not about your mission.
Without
You
a
know,
doubt. Yeah.
wait a second, this feels kind of icky, and I don't know why, but I just don't feel good. People are going to start tapping into that inner GPS and going, I don't know, something's off. I'm not sure what it is, but something's off. And it comes down to alignment. If somebody's out of alignment with their intention and out of alignment with the truth of the work and the purity of the love of the work, then, it'll eventually show itself.
100%. Yes. You really are a pioneer in that respect, and thank you for your honesty just now. My hope is that in mainstream, the more that people wake up to that, they're using their discernment muscle more
Yeah.
and more, and you exemplify again living from your truth and of truth. How is it? Where can people find you, Alexi?
Yeah. If you're into Google stalking, which I totally am, you can Google stalk me. Just type in Alexi Panos. You'll find a bunch of stuff. But my website's alexipanos.com, all over social media. I'm mostly on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Alexi Panos. Yeah, and you can deep dive into some of my work, and you'll also get connected with some of the amazing people in my community as well. You'll see them on my page. I rarely share people's stuff, and you know this as well. We chatted about this, unless I'm aligned. And it's that feeling. I use my discernment muscle on the inside, and I'm like, am I aligned with this human? Hold on a second.
And it just takes that few moments just to ask and see the feeling that rises from it.
Totally. And there's just some people I'm a yes, and I'm a wholehearted yes to, and some people I'm like, I'm not sure yet. I need more time.
Yeah, and that's okay, as long and giving yourself that permission, and for all of you who are listening, give yourself that permission. And even if you choose a direction that may lead you in a different direction that you weren't expecting or what have you, it's still part of the process, and that's where that forgiveness can come in and that kindness towards yourself.
Totally, totally. And just because we may feel out of alignment with somebody else doesn't necessarily mean that what we're feeling is true. So we also get to hold people to their potential and how they can rise into a pure intention and into a pure heart. Because I do think there's a lot of us out there that are like, oh, they're at this place, and that judgment is keeping them down there versus, calling them up, having them rise into their fullness.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you just used the words pure heart. Eric, my husband, and I, we always say that we operate from a pure heart, and that not only is it that we're doing it, but that is our absolute intention. And I love the fact that you just use those words. That's a new hashtag.
Yay!
Alexi, for those of us who are listening and are sharing this energy with you in this time, any final remarks? One last golden nugget that you'd like to leave with everyone?
Yeah, I would love any of you who are out there and listening. You're here for a reason. I don't believe in accidents in life. I don't believe that you're just, listening to this because you happened upon it. There is a greater thing at work, and if you hear anything, hear this. You are here to really love, to really shine, to really let that light of yours out, to make a difference, to give your gift, to serve in your highest capacity. You are here for that. And if you feel like your life isn't reflecting that, just start making small changes. Start small. You don't have to go big. You don't have to quit your life. Start from where you're at and start loving and giving that love to as many people as you can, because I'm telling you, even something as small as a smile can make the biggest difference in the world. You can literally change somebody's entire universe just with a smile, just with listening, just with presence, just with eye contact. So give that. We all have the ability to give that. So give that and give that fully, and know that you're here for something really, really powerful.
Thank you. Simple and powerful words with Alexi Panos today. Alexi, thank you again. I would love to have you back as my guest when your book is released, and
Oh, of
have you
course.
both
Yeah.
on the show. Your book is called Now or Never. Keep an eye out for it, everyone. For those of you who are with us, as I mentioned, whether you're listening now, today, or when the actual podcast is released, or at another time, please connect with me via Facebook on the Calling the Real You Facebook page. And Calling the Real You is all one word. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on the Calling the Real You podcast. And I also wish to thank Eric, my husband, who is my best friend and business partner. I always say if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be doing what it is that I love and have passion for, but that's not true. I would be doing it. He just makes it a whole lot easier for me. And I couldn't be more grateful for him for that. And I also wish to thank Sacred Stories, which the Calling the Real You podcast is hosted on, and Lux Salon and Spa, Yola Portraits, Karen D. Felice Designs, and the transformational music by Emmy Award-winning musician Jim Oliver. Thank you, everyone, for your support and sponsorship. Alexi, thank you again. Everyone have a wonderful week. And remember, call the real you out.